What's up, my friend? Welcome back to another video. And today I just wanted to have a conversation with you about sample libraries and what I've learned over the years from someone who has purchased, over $50,000 of sample libraries. And it hurts me to even say that, but it's true. And I wish I knew these things growing up and going into the world of composing in sample libraries. It would have saved me a lot of money. So I hope these tips help you in today's video. And by the end, hopefully it should give you some takeaways that you can think about and consider when you're on the market for a new sample library. So before we really do that though, I also do believe that having a good set of sample libraries is very crucial to having a good workstation, right? Having a good foundation, having that set up. So I do want to give you my sample library buyer's guide, I should say, in case you're wondering about the libraries that I do use on a regular basis and my personal recommendations. These are categorized by like the orchestral sections, plus some other ones like jazz libraries, ethnic libraries, percussion libraries, everything like that. And it's super organized, it's very didactic, and it's very comprehensive. So if you're looking for some sample libraries and you're curious about my thoughts on them, and maybe if they're included or not in the guide, then I want to give that to you totally free. You can click the first link in the box below to grab it. And again, it's my gift to you for checking out this video today. So let's talk about the negatives of sample libraries, or the three things that I've learned from investing so much money into them over the years. And the very first thing I want to mention is the 80-20 rule. I think otherwise called the Pareto's principle. But what this rule basically states is that 80% of the results that you get comes from 20% of the work, or 20% of the effort that you put in. And the way this translates to sample libraries and technology in music is that 20% of the tools that you use will create 80% of the results that you get. And if you think about it, let's say you're someone with, let's say, 100 sample libraries. I think the last time I counted, I basically had around 200 libraries or so. But let's say you have 100 libraries. Realistically, how many of those libraries do you use on a day-to-day basis for your regular work? I would wager to say probably between, 5 to 10, maybe 15, 20. And so that just proves that once we start using libraries and we kind of connect with them and we feel that these are great libraries to use for our regular work, we start to become very accustomed to them, and our workflow is kind of shaped by those libraries, right? And so once we start to get comfortable with them, then any kind of new library that comes across that maybe has a different workflow or presents something different that we didn't expect, those libraries can tend to fall by the wayside, and we tend to kind of neglect them a little bit, and they start to collect virtual dust. So that's kind of a very, evident case of how the 20% of the libraries that we actually use creates about 80% of the music that we actually create. And this can get even more lopsided. Let's say you only use 10 libraries for 90% of the work that you do, right? 90-10, that could also work as well. But the reason this is important is just that knowing that, the core libraries that you use, those being the main libraries that in your workflow and in your arsenal, that tells you that you don't need to purchase a whole bunch of other libraries that you might not even use that much of in the future, right? Because you're probably going to just be wasting that money. Realistically, a lot of the times we're just purchasing libraries because they're new, they're shiny, and they look cool, and they have a cool sound. But then after we buy them, we realize we're actually not going to use them that much. So that's when the buyer's remorse kind of sets in, and that's kind of what I'm trying to avoid for you, because I felt that so many times. So yeah, the 80-20 rule really applies, and just really treasuring the 20% or even the 10% that you already have and that you really use on a regular basis, that should tell us that the other 90% of libraries that we don't really use is probably going to be a similar story like that if you continue to buy new libraries in the future. Those are probably not going to make their way into your 10%, to be completely honest. So yeah, this can also apply for individual libraries too, like Berlin Strings from Orchestral Tools. When I first bought it, for me, it was like the most amazing library ever. And then I started to realize over time, I really only used 3 or 4 patches from that library. And the entire thing is like, almost 200 gigabytes. And I only use like 1 gigabyte from it, only like the violins legato or the ostinato patch or something. So just keep in mind that most of what you purchase will not get used. The core 10-20% is what you're really going to use, and you really want to dive deep into that and get to know those libraries as best as you can before really considering a new purchase. as long as it can do something that your existing library cannot do, you know? So that's the first thing I kind of learned over these years. The second one, and this is more of just a general tip, is to discover the style that you want to write in as quickly as possible. So when I was starting to write music, I had already written songs. I had already written kind of these short little pieces, all in my own personal Disney, Nintendo type of style. And so when it came time to buying sample libraries, I already kind of had an idea of what I wanted in terms of the sound and the articulations. I knew I wanted good legato. I wanted good shorts. I just wanted a comprehensive set of libraries that could serve my purposes in general, you know? And that kind of gave me a good vision of what to invest in. But if you're just starting out in music making and you're not really sure what genre you want to specialize in or the type of music that you want to write in general, then it can be very dangerous because you could find yourself purchasing libraries all over the place in a variety of different styles. And again, back to the 80-20 rule, you might find yourself only using 10 of those libraries out of like the hundreds that you buy, right? So just making sure that you sit down, really think to yourself, what kind of music do I want to write? What music am I really inspired by? What, gives me the motivation and the juice to write? And then starting to look into those sorts of libraries that will help you create that style of music that really excites you, if that makes sense, So that's what I would definitely recommend, is to kind of discover that style that you want to write in and that you feel would fuel you for the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years at least, because those libraries will serve you the best, the ones that you will use the most. And that's determined by knowing the type of genre and the style you want to write in. So for me, that's tip number 2, is just making sure you kind of hone in on your own sound and kind of nail down the type of sound that you want to achieve from your music. All right. And then the third and final tip I can share is that overall, it's the skill of the composer, of the arranger, of the virtual mockup artist that really matters, and not so much the library. Now, that's not to say that the library isn't important. In the beginning, I shared with you my library buyer's guide because I do believe that libraries are important, and the libraries that I personally recommend can serve your purposes for the most part in a variety of situations. But that being said, the things that we do with those libraries, the skills that we actually possess to get the best out of those libraries, those are the ultimate determining factors of whether our mockup is going to sound good or not. So that's definitely something to think about, is that it's always wiser, in my opinion, to invest in your own skill set and improve as a virtual orchestrator, let's say, someone who uses a MIDI controller, uses faders and mod wheels and things like that to get the best out of those instruments, rather than thinking that the next sample library you purchase is going to solve all your problems. It probably won't. And in fact, it might overwhelm you even more, So in my opinion, really just maybe even just using 1 or 2 libraries for the time being, and really asking yourself, how can I get the best out of this library? How do I get the best expression out of it? Does it come with multiple dynamic layers? Okay, well, if so, how do I actually trigger them? How do I create expressive performances? Maybe it has a lot of vibrato. How do I tame that down? How do I create these smooth performances? How do I trigger the different articulations? All these things you want to be asking yourself, again, because you want to get the most out of your existing libraries and really know them inside and out before entertaining the ideas of purchasing new libraries. Yeah, like with software, right? It just collects virtually. So it's not like you see those physical units adding up on your desk or anything or in your room. They're virtual. So you could just buy as many of them as you want, given that you have enough space. And it's like, it's too late. Then you notice, oh, wait, I've already spent like thousands of dollars like I did on these libraries, and I don't even know how to use, 75% of them. And that's kind of the worst feeling. So just honing in on our skills, whether that's watching YouTube videos, following someone's course, going through someone's membership, getting private coaching and teaching from someone, like just upgrading your knowledge and getting the best out of your existing libraries is one of the strongest pieces of advice I can ever share. Again, just because that, we find ourselves being tempted by a lot of libraries all over the place, but it's like, how do you actually maximize your use out of your existing tools? And I think once we kind of ingrain that and really understand that, it gives us a better perspective on how to actually try to put ourselves into practice and use those existing libraries as best as we can. So I hope these 3 things kind of helped. Again, just to quickly recap, the first one is the 80-20 rule. 80% of the results that you get will come from 20% of the effort. So put that 20% into the existing tools that you already have. You're going to end up using 20% of your libraries to create 80% of your music. And again, that could be even more lopsided, maybe 90-10 or maybe 25-75. But generally, it's going to be that lopsided kind of measurement. Number two is to discover the style you want to write in as quickly as possible so you can specify exactly which libraries will be the best fit for your workflow, and you won't be spending unnecessarily on a bunch of libraries that won't even help you with your music, right? And then the third and final one is understanding that it's our skill that really matters and it's not really the library. Although the library does matter at a fundamental level, it's also our personal skills and how we actually get the best out of those libraries that will create the best most convincing realistic performances from those libraries. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Again, if you're interested in my personal sample library recommendations to get yourself on that head start and give yourself a good foundation, then again, I want to give you my sample library buyer's guide. Treat it as kind of like just a small guide that you can refer to anytime you're interested in my personal thoughts on a recommended library, and maybe you're wondering if it's actually in there in the first place. You can quickly check. But again, it's my gift to you. You can download it completely free. Click the first link in the description box below and you can grab it right away as my gift to you. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next video and take care. Bye-bye.